I have Pedro with First Centennial, and we are here for our part two, bing, 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 to give you guys some finance updates for Finance Friday. As always, thanks for tuning in. And Pedro, if you want to let people know a little bit about yourself this week, give us maybe 30 seconds about who you are, what you got going on, things
Yeah,
of that nature.
definitely. Hello, everyone. Pedro Genao, First Centennial Mortgage, mortgage loan originator. Been with the company for 7 years. Financial industry for about almost 20 years now. Just background in finance, personal banking, investments, insurance, and here to answer any questions. And let's get to it.
Okay, great. So, for everyone out there watching, feel free to jump in and leave comments in the comment section. If we can't ask them why, we will ask them on our next video presentation that we have. So, never limit yourself on asking questions. If you're uncomfortable with asking questions in the comments, drop it in the DM. Not a problem. All right. So, my first question for you today, Pedro, tell me about loan limits and requirements for jumbo loans because I'm sure a lot of people out here aren't sure what a jumbo loan is. Can you tell them what that is and the process?
Yeah, so jumbo loans are overall loan amounts that are above the current national conforming loan limit. So the conforming loan limit, which is basically the maximum loan amount limit for a conventional loan, right now is at 726,200. So any loan amount above that is automatically a jumbo loan. Now, jumbo loans, because they're not backed up by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are the governing agencies for a conventional loan that insure it, then they have tighter requirements on the jumbo loan requirement. Now, obviously, credit score requirements are higher. Typically, the requirements for down payment are 20%. Showing more income, debt to income ratio is a little bit more steep. Also have to show reserves that you have on top of the money for down payment and closing costs, that you also have 6 months worth of the potential mortgage payment in additional savings. And those savings could be in forms of many assets. Like it could be your retirement account, it could be investment accounts. It doesn't have to be necessarily like checking or savings account balances. But that's what falls into a jumbo loan.
Okay.
There are options for down payments a little bit lower, like 10 or 15%, but that's when the rates and the mortgage insurance get and the payments get expensive. Typically, jumbo loans are 20% or more.
They are
Yeah.
20% or more.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess with the 6 month savings, is it okay to suggest that for like a regular standard purchase as well?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Okay.
For conventional loans, FHA, VA loans, sometimes you may or may not have to show reserves, whether 1 month, 3 months, or 6 months. If we're trying to compensate for other factors, maybe the credit score is a little lower, the income and debts are very tight compared to the budget, meaning that the mortgage payment could be very expensive compared to your income. So you want to show that you have backup savings, to get that qualification. So it's really required on a case by case basis versus a standard requirement like on a jumbo loan.
Okay. Thank you. So what about VA loans? What are the requirements in terms for something like those?
Well, first, obviously, a veteran.
Right.
So
That's the
the
first criteria. First one.
exactly, and the veterans typically have to apply for what's called a certificate of eligibility. So the way a VA loan works is that it's not the loan. The money doesn't come from the VA. The VA insures the loan. So the money comes from us directly as the lender, just like any other loan program. The terms and conditions are different because the VA backs it up. So for them to back it up, they have their requirements in order to qualify for those insurance and benefits as well. Obviously, being a veteran, but then in certain time frames, you have to serve as a veteran, um, like a certain amount of time of either active direct duty. And so there's actually a document that veterans provide. Typically, is a DD 214, or if they're currently in active service, it is like a statement of service of the time they were in to get those benefits. If they haven't never applied for a VA loan before, they apply with the VA for a certificate to show that they qualify for VA benefits, and then that's used for the loan qualification. And we continue from there with the credit, income requirements, etc. Now, the benefits there obviously is you could do a zero down payment on a VA loan.
Hmm.
And the second major benefit is that there's no private mortgage insurance, there's no PMI in the monthly payment.
Nice. Well, that's crazy. I thought everybody had a PMI, but now learning that VA doesn't have a PMI, that's really
Yeah,
good.
VA does is the only loan program that doesn't have a PMI.
Wow.
And because the government insures it, the whole point of PMI, like I
Right.
mentioned in the last session, was that it insures a loan for less than 20% down payment. VA backs it up and covers that
Okay.
for those benefits.
So, how long does someone need to be a veteran or, I guess, active for them to qualify?
It typically is at least 2 years of
Okay.
active service.
2 years active service.
Two
Okay.
years of service, yeah. But the VA will determine those qualifications. If there's any
Okay.
gray areas, that's all in the VA. For the loan approval, we just need that certificate from the VA that you qualify. Many times we could apply, we actually send the application for the certificate on their behalf while they're under contract. If it's
Okay.
pretty much like a no brainer that they qualify. If there's any gray area in their service, then I will forward them to the VA and say, get the certificate first just to be certain, make sure there's no issues with them beforehand before getting on the contract.
I like to think that VA is a little strict, like FHA financing. Is that true?
Similar, yes. Their guidelines on the physical conditions of the property are pretty similar to FHA. They're pretty much looking for the same items. The one additional requirement is not required with conventional FHA, and you've seen this before, is it requires a termite inspection on the property. Now, termite inspections in many cases have been also recommended depending on the scope of the property, regardless of what your loan program is. But if it's a VA loan, it's definitely required regardless.
Yeah, I definitely remember seeing that. I had the listing and I had a VA buyer and he mentioned termite inspection. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really good. So with VA, am glad we are talking about this. So how is VA like can you buy more than one house with a VA?
You could.
Okay.
So the VA has what's called entitlement limit. So
Okay.
depending on how much of a loan amount you took out on your first VA loan, you could get your second property under a VA loan, depending on the dollar amount left to use from the VA's the benefits that you're approved for.
Okay.
So it's that's another thing. It's a case by case basis. So it's basically you contacting the VA, confirm your dollar amounts limit on your eligibility, what's left to use, and then that gets applied towards the next purchase. Now, the only way that works is if you're bought your first home under a VA loan, you still have the VA loan, and then now you want to move and buy your next home as a primary under with a VA loan as well. Many times, sometimes the what's left to use for the second purchase is may not be enough for what you're looking for. So many
Mhm.
times, what people do is refinance their current VA loan into a conventional loan, and once that first VA loan is paid off with the refinance, that reverts them back to a full entitlement on the next VA purchase.
So with that, you could rent a VA property out, like if you buy with the balance that you have. I mean, let's say you get two houses under that threshold, and you so is it like a rental? Like if someone wants to become an investor down the line and they have a VA, is it a possibility that they could rent out the previous home?
They
And
could, they
okay,
could. So the purpose of the VA loan is only for primary residence as you're taking out the loan and purchasing it. Now, if
okay,
you took it as a VA loan, that's your home. You buy it as your home and move into it. But then after maybe say 2, 3
10 years.
years,
We can
you
say
decide
10.
to upgrade or downgrade, whatever the reason you want to buy your next property or relocate, whatever the case may be, you could rent out the vacating property as a rental and then
Okay.
use the VA loan to purchase your new home. It's all about the intent of the time you're taking out the loan. Things could change down the road, but
Mhm.
as long as your intention legally is to occupy as a primary home as you're taking out the loan, that's the purpose of the VA loan. Because they can penalize you and say you got to refinance first. Maybe the rates are higher now than what you first got your VA loan, and it doesn't make sense financially to refinance, and then you can still use the same benefit towards the next one if the dollar amount left over is enough.
Right. Okay. We still jumping around. So that was really good. Good to know. So for my veterans out there, I know you're watching. Hey y'all. So can we talk about? So I had a call recently where someone was interested in doing. They want to purchase storefront on the bottom and multiple rental units above, where it's like 2 to 3 units above.
Mhm.
What kind of financing would that be? Would residential financing be applicable to a mixed use property like that?
FHA financing is actually the best option for that.
Okay.
So obviously, it has to be 51% or more occupied with residential space versus commercial space. So that's the first guideline.
Mhm.
And then it could be counted as a multi-unit purchase up to 4 units with FHA.
What you say? Up to 4 units.
Right.
Okay, so is it like the square footage limitation to it as well?
The square footage, not the total limit. There's not a total limit, but the square footage of the storefront in this case, like the commercial area, has to be less than 51%. So
Okay.
more than half has to be occupied as residential space.
So like if it's 4,000 square feet, let's just say the storefront is 1,900 because it's a little gap in the back where you can come down from upstairs, and the other units would equate to 2,100 square feet. So each unit would be 700 square feet. Then that would be FHA up to 4 units, residential mixed use financing.
That's correct. Yeah, the
Okay.
total residential units still combined occupy more than 51%.
Okay. Okay. Combined. So okay, got you. Good to know. So what would it take for you to have to do, I guess, with that crossover? So let's say the storefront is 51, that would be more of a commercial financing.
That'll be commercial lending. So then you want to contact a commercial lender. Our company, we just simply do residential.
Okay.
And that's where is the majority of the purpose of the property is more for commercial than residential. So that's where commercial lending will fall in place. Even on the first scenario that we discussed, where FHA could qualify, where it's 51% or more on the residential side, it still has to be zoned more for residential use. So
Okay.
the zoning
That's
and the
my
way the
next
title
question.
is recorded is a factor as well. Sometimes some properties have had the same zoning and title recording for sometimes many decades, and because it's been the same owner for so long and nothing's been updated because they may have done renovations, they may have converted to more
Right.
residential than commercial, but nothing's been updated with the county. So all
Okay.
of that has to be in place before it qualify for FHA financing. But
Okay.
yeah, like I said, more than half is commercial use. Is definitely commercial lending, and you have to speak with a commercial lender to see what it would take to qualify there.
Okay. Noted. Thank you. Um, hmm. What's the difference between residential and commercial overall?
I mean, the usage, the way it's zoned, the way it's recorded, the title, but obviously the
That's it.
usage. Is it meant for people to live in, or is it meant for people to operate a business?
Okay.
So there's a structure. Now you can buy it as an
That was-
investor and still be a residential loan because you're renting it to tenants that are going to occupy it as their home.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking about that. So like if someone is coming in incorporated, like with the mixed use, if he's coming in incorporated, but it still has the resident more of a residential space than it does commercial space, then he'll be fine. Okay. That's good. And we have our closing question. I think this one you can elaborate as much as you want to in this one. What mindset is needed to successfully close a purchase?
You definitely have to have a business mindset, even if it's your personal home, condo, townhome, your first time home buyer, you want to buy a home for your family. You have to come in with a business mindset now more than ever because of how competitive the market is still.
Yeah.
Going in just asking for everything and not offering anything in return, because a negotiation, the definition of a negotiation is that you have your wants and needs, the seller has their wants and needs, and then you negotiate and meet a middle ground that satisfies all parties. Going in with a business mindset and making, because even though it's your personal home that you're purchasing, this is still an investment. And one of the founding
Absolutely.
two of the founding principles in investment is making decisions based on what's on facts and figures, and also is this going to be an investment where I'm going to get a return on my investment versus the personal and emotional decisions involved. It's a very tough to do so because you're going in saying, I want this for my family, I want to buy it better in a nice neighborhood, all this, the best reasons why to buy your first home. But when making an offer to a seller and negotiate with them, or telling your real estate agents what your needs are, definitely take the advice of how to structure the offer, because the mutual goal is there. The mutual goal is to get the offer accepted,
Right.
and obviously within favorable terms. And so you want to present your offer in a way that it appeals to the seller, because you're competing against other buyers. Now, if the market ever switches down the road back to a buyer's market, that's when you have more leeway to get ask for more in sense. But right now it's still more of a seller's market. You have to go in with a business mindset that, like, if I was a seller, would I take this offer?
Absolutely. I agree. I like how you put that. Okay. Those are my questions for today. We do this during the noon lunch hour, everyone. So we try to get as much information to you guys within a nice window. I appreciate you, Pedro. Pedro will be back in September. I'll drop the dates later because I can't remember right now offhand. But I always appreciate talking with you, communicating with you, and the information and insight that you give to our viewers. Let me see if we have any questions before I let you go.
Sure.
Give me 1 second, because I always forget how to do the chat bot. Okay, no, we don't. Let's see. Nope, we don't have any questions. Well, thank you again. Let everyone know where they can find you.
Yes, Pedro Genao, First Centennial Mortgage. My website is literally my first and last name.com. Pedro, PedroGenao.com. You can find my Google page as well by just simply searching my name in First Centennial Mortgage.
All right, I dropped your link in the chat as well for our later replayers. If you are watching the replay, put 2 thumbs up in the chat so that we know that we are getting our views. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Until next time, Pedro.
Take care, Katya. Have a great weekend, everybody.